You know, these little bendy tripod things are really great, but walking into the frame, you never really know what you're gonna look like. I'm gonna finish making my coffee while people jump on, and also put away these dishes real quick, fast, and in a hurry. And we can also go through the recipe card. I guess I should probably do like an introduction or something. Tell you one fun fact about myself. We'll see. And maybe I'll show you my super high-tech setup where I have a step stool that my children use to reach the counters to hold all of my training aids while I bake. It also doubles as my cooling rack as well. Very versatile piece of equipment. Problem that we look at and take care of later. It's a problem for future Jess. Cool. All right, sorry to keep you guys waiting. So my name is Jess. I began baking while I was on maternity leave, and we were also in quarantine. I had a toddler and an infant, and I was binge watching the Great British Baking Show, and any of the other challenges that Paul Hollywood comes up with, there is not a snowflake's chance in HE double hockey sticks I would ever be able to make it, but biscotti I thought I could do. And I did. It led me here. That's really how I got started. I started shuffling biscotti off to my boys' daycare, just to get it out of the house, and they suggested that maybe I start selling it. So that's how I kind of got here. That is probably my fun fact about myself. I'll go ahead and run through our recipe card real quick, just to make sure that everybody's got everything that they need. I know that there's been more than one occasion where I read a recipe card. I was like, yeah, I got it. And then I definitely forgot something. So just real quick, you're gonna need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ginger, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree, 1/2 cup of vegetable shortening, or butter if you prefer it, 1 cup granulated sugar, 3 eggs at room temperature, and 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. I see, I made that plural. And then for the topping, you'll need about 1/2 cup of white chocolate chips. But the topping is totally up to you, and you can change it up as you see fit. Probably gonna have to pull up the live on my other screen as well. All right. Sorry, this is very slow. We're making it work. All right, so then to get started, I've already started my oven. It's set to 350, and now I will grab my baking pan. It's the one piece of prep item that I did not handle this morning like normal. So, if you don't have a silicone baking mat, that's not a problem. You can use parchment paper without issue. I've not tried it without. I've not tried baking biscotti without putting it on some kind of liner. Bake at your own risk. And can everybody, I guess, see everything? This one moves, so I can move out of the way and show you guys the setup over here. Maybe that's a little better. I hope you guys are not getting too terribly motion sick. Cool. All right, so to get started, I have already put my things into my sieve with the exception of my nutmeg. So in here I have 3 cups of flour, my baking soda, my salt, cinnamon, ginger, sans the nutmeg. So I will go ahead and add my nutmeg. You guys feel free to start adding things to your sieve yourself. If you don't have a sieve or a sifter, whatever they're called, I've also just used a wire whisk, and that was effective as well. Slide all these things over, then you just sift it all together. And this just ensures, I'm sure you guys are all very aware that, you know, doing something like this helps to keep baking soda or baking powder from building up, really any of your ingredients building up and clumping together, which does affect the taste. I was using baking powder at first and did not sift it, and ended up biting into a giant clump of baking powder, very bitter, very sour. I did not want to eat any more of that biscotti. Very slow sifting day. I apologize. Maybe it's a lack of coffee. All right, put that in our sink. So now it's light and fluffy. Maybe I should actually select the live video. I wonder if I can do that. Oh, look at that, I can. Dana, so I'm looking back through the comments. Sorry, I'm going between the two. You could use pumpkin pie spice instead. I have not altered from this just because I make with what I have in the kitchen or on hand, and I had all of the single spices, so that's what I ran with, but you absolutely could use pumpkin pie spice instead. All right, so now that we have all of our dry ingredients together, I'm gonna just set it to the side. We're not used to such small cameras. I deal with a lot of cameras and a lot of setting up shots. This is so small, such a small space. We're going to add in our half cup sugar we're going to add in our cup of sugar and our half cup of vegetable shortening, which I have here. There's a half a cup. And now we have a whole cup. Now we'll add my paddle attachment. I'm gonna just turn it on low so that a nice gritty mixture can form. I'm sure you guys have all seen a mixer go round and round in a bowl, but here we are. next thing we're gonna add are our 3 eggs at room temperature. I suggest at room temperature simply because in my experience, when I add the cold eggs, it makes it very difficult to get them all to whip together and be light and fluffy. It almost looks, curdled is a bad word in baking, but that's kind of the texture that it gives off. Let's see if I can turn that this way. Nice shot of the bowl. So I'll start by adding 1. I'll start my mixer up again on low-ish, and then I'll add the other 2. Miss Lindsay, so I'm going back through the comments now. The reason I use shortening instead of butter is because I have to abide by Texas cottage law, which requires us to only use shelf staple ingredients. So I use shortening so that I can sell at local markets and such, and not have to worry about any sort of, I guess, negative repercussions regarding the cottage law. I also like that I don't have to sit so much butter out overnight to get it to be nice and fluffy. But that's just a perfect personal preference. If you like using butter, you have a lot of butter on hand, you go for it. We use butter mostly like when cooking on the stove anymore. So this is what I keep on hand. It's inexpensive. I can keep it at room temperature anyway. This is gonna fall. Definitely gonna fall. All right. So that's why I use shortening. As for, can you do this with things other than pumpkin? Absolutely. This particular recipe is crafted to account for the heaviness and the moisture with the pumpkin puree. I do have a base recipe that is different from this slightly because I don't have to account for those things. But if you were to use, like, if you want to do an apple cider biscotti or something like that and actually incorporate the applesauce into your batter, you could definitely do that. For others, I can get with you offline. These civilians say that. If I have any other military bakers in here or military spouse bakers, I'm probably using a lot of jargon. Feel free to call me on it. I would make it a drinking game or a tasting game. All right. I'm sure there's a fancy word to describe the texture of our mix so far, but it's kind of like a pancake batter, pancake mix. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add in our teaspoon of vanilla, and we are gonna keep mixing. I'm gonna go grab my coffee while it does that. right, so it's pretty light and fluffy at this point. I think when I asked about marshmallows, they said that this is called the ribbon stage. So it is very soft, very malleable, but still light and fluffy. I need to back you guys up. I feel like I'm getting a little claustrophobic in this corner. We'll adjust for a second. Mind your eyes, it's going to be very shaky. Try that again. Oh, that's a little better. I probably should have set it up that way to begin with. Miss Lindsay, to your question about the number of eggs, the couple of recipes that I make that do have 3 eggs are definitely denser than the others, but they do usually incorporate a lot more flour and stuff too. I really wish that there was like a chemistry baking class. I feel like I could add scientist to my resume now because, you know, Add a Twist scientist on Netflix told me that baking is science and it's all chemistry and reactions and stuff. So I don't know why they are so much denser, but that has been my experience also. Crystal, I will get you my other base recipe for you to play with, and you can adapt that as you see fit. I am not a big fan of ginger either. I stick with it because I feel like people who are super into pumpkin spice will like know if it's not in there. But you can omit it totally. All of those spices you can add or subtract based on what you and your family, whoever you're baking for, what your preference is. I'm not a huge ginger fan either. Maybe I'll just post that base recipe. I can probably post it in the event. We've got some military moms, military spouses. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, it's nice and whippy. We've added our vanilla. Now we can add in, I probably should have gotten this out. We can start adding in our dry ingredients. I add them, and I think it says half cup at a time on the recipe card, but whatever measuring cup you have on hand, just so that your mixer doesn't get bogged down. Maybe you guys are working with some of those really cool, like, giant mixers they have at the Crumble place. I've only just discovered Crumble cookies, but I could, like, put a small child in that mixer. My tiny KitchenAid cannot fathom that kind of load, so we go in smaller increments. And I put a couple of scoops in, turn on the mixer, and then I gradually add it. And try not to throw dry ingredients everywhere. All right. Thickening up, and it smells like Thanksgiving and the parade, football season. That's what I think of when I smell pumpkin spice or pumpkin pie. I think about football and big dinner and all of the men in my house vanishing before sundown to go sit up in tree stands. which is great for me because it means all the pumpkin pie is left unattended. All right, there's the rest of it. And I'm gonna turn it probably medium-ish speed. Nice and crumbly. Wonderful. So now, the moment we've all been waiting for, sort of. You're gonna go ahead and add in your 1/2 cup pumpkin puree. I use this super fancy Great Value brand that I got for like 79 cents a can at Kroger. Let's go ahead and turn that on in there. Probably should have gotten my spatula. Go ahead and pull some of this off of here, make sure everything gets mixed in together. Now we're just going to mix until it's all well combined. It will change in color slightly. While this is fixing up, I'll go back through these comments, make sure I can answer all the questions real quick. Crystal, I'm in Texas, and it is a beautiful 90-degree day. But we have pumpkin spice biscotti going in the oven, and lots and lots of candles. Yes, I will show the top. Here, let's. Miss Lindsay. Sorry I didn't see this sooner. I'm just going to have to take my phone out of this tripod. All right. And we're going to turn this sucker around. Maybe. All right. So here's our mixer. It was a pretty thick dough before we added the pumpkin. It's still nice and thick, but much more, what's the word, I guess. It's looser. I hope this is helpful. We're going to do a little bit more mixing. I'm going to scrape the sides of the bowl just to make sure that all of this stuff that is still really thick does get mixed in with the rest of the pumpkin puree so that the flavors are well blended throughout and you don't have like one bite that's either discolored and, messes with the look of your bake. And just to make sure that every bite has that awesome pumpkin flavor, unless you're not a pumpkin fan, in which case that, whatever pumpkin flavor. Was that helpful, Lindsay? Okay. So yeah, they are pretty moist. I'm gonna put this sucker back over here, avoid showing you my children's Buc-ee's chairs and Matchbox cars. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna pull everything off of the sides as best I can, turn it back out into the center of the mixer, And then I'm going to turn it on medium-high to high speed just to make sure that everything gets pulled in away from the sides, is mixed together properly, but also so it all combines better in the center of the bowl, and it's easier for me to turn out as well. If you guys wanted to get creative on your own or bake this another time, you know, this is a perfect moment to like add in chopped nuts, or if you wanted to add your white chocolate chips to your batter, it'd be a great moment to do that as well. As for the shelf life of these, about 10 days, and they're without any issue. If they're individually heat sealed, they do last a little bit longer, and you can also keep them in your refrigerator, which will prolong that as well. If you don't want to use pumpkin, like real pumpkin, you can also use, I have it here somewhere, you can also use something like one of these Starbucks drinks and add it to your batter, and the flavors are very pronounced. I make a caramel biscotti as well, and I use the coffee grounds from a Starbucks caramel macchiato like K-cup thing. Super good. Yes, the dough is sticky to touch. All right, so it is a very sticky dough. Let's see. Maybe this won't fall. Sorry for all the motion, guys. But yeah, it is a very sticky dough. It is still pretty soft, and that is a-okay. This does bake a lot of biscotti. So what we are going to do is clear out all this crap that I've now put in my own way. I've got my pan. I'm going to adjust this tripod again. You guys up real close like. Maybe bring you up this way. Sort of, kind of, sort of. Okay, so I've got my spatula. I'm gonna remove my paddle attachment from my mixer. I'm gonna start cleaning this sucker off. Most of my other recipes, I don't hesitate to just stick my hands in the dough and use it to use my hands to shape them. Because this one is so sticky, I don't do that because I feel like I waste more of it getting it on my hands than having to wash it off than I do actually on the pan. And that's heartbreaking. All right. Stick this right here on the corner for now. That's a little bit better of a view. Whew, almost lost it. All right, so we're just gonna turn this out. I do it kind of in spoonfuls and create my shape that way. Just a spoonful at a time and continue adding to it until my log is the full length of my pan. So from here, you can just use your spatula to shape it, pull and push it how to your size liking. So I make mine the size they are because as a consumer, as somebody who would eat a cookie with coffee, that seems to be what I liked best. I haven't had any complaints, but nobody's also like praised me for, oh, this is such a generous portion or anything like that. So it's really about what you like, if you're baking this for a family member or if you plan to start, making it and selling it yourselves, what do your customers like and what are they looking for? I like a fairly substantial cookie to go with my coffee. But I guess you guys know that. Recipes are intended to be a DIY thing. Take the base recipe and do with it what you will. And so I will pull mine, once I've got it all about even, I will pull mine clear to the end of my pan or my my baking liner. These also have a really nice rise, just so that you are aware. You get a nice dome on top. I think that's good. See how much more of this I can get off. All right, I could get fixated on that. Anyways, so now we have our log clear from one end to the other. It's nice light orange color. You can kind of see the spice granules in there, which I think looks really pretty. And let me double check for some questions real quick. Michelle, once I get this in the oven, I'm happy to walk back through the first couple of steps with you to make sure that you've got it. I definitely feel I definitely feel what it's like working with kiddos. Awesome. So I guess now I get to show you guys the rest of my ridiculous setup. We're gonna have some Facebook Live Inception over here. So my really nice step stool / prop holder / cooling rack. We're gonna bring this back a little so I can get this stuff in the oven. All right. Sure, that'll work. So this is say 25 to 30 minutes, and that's usually about right for my oven. When you are baking with like real fruit stuff like the pumpkin puree, you can definitely afford to bake it a little bit longer, just to make sure that the inside is done to your liking. So I baked these the last time for 27 minutes. So I'm gonna set my timer for 27. You guys can set yours for 25 and see how it feels from there. So here we go. In the meantime, I am going to show you what your next step will be once these come out of the oven. So in preparation for this bake-along, I baked some of these with my family via Facebook Live, just to make sure I knew what I was doing. As you can tell, that was only partly helpful, and I still don't really know what I'm doing. But they said that this part was helpful, and it allowed them to focus on their baking and not be tethered to the computer for, 2 hours. Cool. So what I'm going to show you is, I guess really what's going to happen in 30-ish minutes. Once you've removed your biscotti from the oven after their first bake, you allow them to cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. That way that you can cut them without pulling any of those moist ingredients and kind of obliterating the inside of your biscotti. Oh, that's good stuff. So, let's see. I will have to move you again. Go right about here. That feels right. Is that a pretty okay view? So these are the biscotti I baked a few days ago. Pretend that they're not yet cut. So after you pull your biscotti out of the oven, you've allowed them to cool for 10 minutes. Grab a knife of your choice. I use our cheese knife. I like the little divots that help me to pull the biscotti away from the rest of the loaf. It also fits easily on my pan. You can also use things like a bench scraper if you've got one of those. I've used my pizza cutter, which worked really well. And then my husband bought me one of those big rocking ones. I've got it in the thing up here. But your knife cutting device of choice. Danica, we're on the same wavelength. Lindsay, you will bake, cool, slice, and bake again. Okay, yes, bake, cool, slice, bake again. So taking your knife of choice, you can slice them, I guess mine are like 1 inch wide down the full length of the log. Traditional biscotti, I believe, are sliced on a diagonal and pretty thin, almost so that they're like cracker-like. I do like a substantial cookie, so that's why I cut them this way. Do with your biscotti what you will, but yes, you cut them down the full length of the biscotti. Those end pieces that are rounded and usually for me end up kind of misshapen and funky, those are how I test my bake. So now you have cookies look something similar to this. They're nice, and I bake mine a little not as crisp either. So that if you're a traditional biscotti fan, that's something to be aware of. That just means you need to bake them a little longer. If you like them crisper, bake them a little longer on that second bake. But in preparation for bake number 2, you just turn them over on their side, or you can shuffle them side by side, kind of oblong like this. I'm gonna put you on my sugar container. Get y'all up nice and close and personal. Sure. So yeah, you can lay them on their side, or you can stagger them so they stand upright, depending on how many you have. And from this point, you would pop them back in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes. It takes about 15 minutes for my oven to cool. So I will turn off my oven and then stick my biscotti back in there for their second bake. And that's really just to dry them out and crisp them up. Speedfly one here to Wisconsin so I can make sure they compliment my coffee. Where are you at in Wisconsin, Miss Sherry? My husband is from Wausau. We were hoping to be in Wisconsin next, but the Army did not see fit to put us there. All right, you're back on the tripod. Eureka by Oshkosh. Fran. So only on my second bake. And that's just because I know that my oven takes roughly 15 minutes to cool from 350 back down and power, essentially power off, the fans turn off and everything. So, so that's how I do it. You can put it in there and leave at 350 and leave it in there for 10 to 15 minutes. That's totally fine. This has just been my experience and how I've kind of adapted it, because I can leave it in there. When it shuts off, the biscotti is finished, and it's also not sitting on my countertop where my 2-year-old will come in here and scream cookies and like snatch them off of the plate. So to keep things moving, keep the momentum going, I'm also going to go ahead and decorate these and show you kind of one of the ways that you can decorate them. It's totally up to you. Decorating cookies, as you all know, is much about personal flair and style. So I will walk you guys through that, and then I'll show you a little bit about how I package them. kind of what I'm planning for the holidays, and I bake with a standard oven. I should probably know the difference. It's not the cool one like they have at Crumble Cookies where everything is like on a rack and it's rotating heat. That's really cool, but I don't have one. Right, so decorating. I'm going to top mine with just white chocolate and some festive sprinkles. Don't mind these 2 cans of homemade marshmallows. Those are going with me to the market this Thursday. So to top them with white chocolate, I use one of these awesome silicone bowls that are super cheap if you buy them as like in the baby department instead of the baking department. So I got 3 for like $12 instead of 1 for $12. So thank you, kiddos. And then I've got a bag of chocolate chips, white chocolate chips. I'm just going to use all the rest of them. I'm sure you all are aware of how to melt chocolate. I put them in here for 30 seconds, stir them up, and go from there, depending on their consistency. And then I have a tiny snack bag, Ziploc, off-brand Ziploc snack bag that I'm going to use today. And where did my sprinkles go? Oh, there they are. And some wonderful fall sprinkle mix that I got for $3 at Walmart. Is anybody else's hardest part of like being a sugar cookier or like professional baker not sampling things as you go? Because I feel like I always want to eat chocolate chips while I'm working with the chocolate chips. I did not add any butter or shortening to my chocolate this time. I have previously, or in when baking other recipes, if I add any kind of flavoring to my chocolate, so I do make a white chocolate pralines and cream topping that is Loran's pralines and cream oil, and so I add probably a tablespoon of shortening to the chocolate when I add the oil to keep it all smooth. Alright, this is all nice and smooth. No need to put it back in the microwave. I like these silicone bowls for this stuff just because they're super easy to clean. Everything melts really nicely into them. They also have suction cups on the bottom, so my clumsy self doesn't knock them off the countertop, which may have happened a couple of times. Ooh, now I'm getting messy. All right, so my super awesome piping bag. Need a little open at the end to wash this off. All right. And our scissors. I'm probably gonna be covered in chocolate by the time this is finished. I guess that would mean it's a normal day of baking for me. Definitely need a new pair of scissors. There we go. And I don't really feel like I need to give you a decorating tutorial too much because like that's what most people in this group do, is decorate cookies. But if you're super interested, I just drizzle some white chocolate over the top. And then add a few sprinkles. You can also dunk these if you prefer like something neater, or you want more chocolate, or you want it to look a little sleeker. Just want to give it a go. You can also turn them face down and dunk them in the white chocolate, and then you'd have white chocolate across the whole thing. And some people enjoy that too. I do some chocolate almond amaretto ones like that. But decorating is all about personal style and preference. Perhaps about how much white chocolate you have on hand. I've also done these with a toasted pecan pie topping. Kind of like, I say this, I don't know how y'all eat your sweet potato casserole, but my grandma always made it with a brown sugar pecan pie topping, and it was super good on these as well. We're running out of chocolate here. Alas, it is gone. But I think you guys have a good understanding of how to frost things. And then we will add some fun festive sprinkles. I don't know how to like best show you these sprinkles. I've got little like maple leaves and pumpkins in them. So we're just gonna sprinkle a few on there. I like to make sure each one of them gets a nice little leaf, you know? Feels very fall, very festive. Like I am the Pumpkin King. Chocolate does dry quickly. So there's that. Yeah, then you end up with some super fun pumpkin spice biscotti. I don't know if it's even registering like where it needs to focus, but there you are. So I will answer some questions real quick. So Miss Dana. Yes, they do freeze really well. I have some, I decided that I was going to bake some for the twins that were Sugar Cookie Marketing Group themed. But they've turned into a test batch. And so they've been in my freezer for probably 8 to 10 weeks. And every week or so I just pull one out and let it thaw to room temperature and taste it, you know, see how the flavor is. And just overall like the quality of the cookie itself. They look great. I put them in a Rubbermaid container like this so that it is airtight, and they are not individually wrapped, but I imagine that would only increase its sustainability. Yes, freezing is great. I got my sprinkles at Walmart in the birthday cake aisle. Crystal, admittedly, I feel like such a cool mom when I put a biscotti in there. It's like, it almost looks like a tiny charcuterie board. Just have like some fresh fruit, and I like have a couple rolls of turkey, like lunch meat. Then I have a biscotti in there instead of some crackers. Feeling very, very cool. I have never tried freezing the dough, Michelle. I've never tried. I don't have a lot of freezer room. And because I cannot, unfortunately the Army won't just like let me off the hook to go and do biscotti full time. So I usually bake specifically for a market or for an order that I receive, where someone is inquiring about something specific. So I haven't tried to freeze the dough. If you do try it, I would love for you to tell me. Maybe I can then convince my husband we should buy a second freezer. So packaging, I'll run through real quick. We're not supposed to talk about heat sealers. I feel like maybe that's the first rule. First rule of Five Club is that you don't talk about Five Club. And the first rule of the Sugar Cookie Marketing Group is that you don't talk about heat sealers. But I just bought a heat sealer, and it was one that several people in other groups have recommended. I originally had this tiny one, and it looked like, oh, here it is. I originally bought this one. This does not go all the way across a bag, so it is a pain to try and get to work. If you're doing very small bags or cookies, this might be great. But I just got like a big one, and it's been amazing. I spent $30 and increased my productivity by like 1,000,000%. But I usually individually heat seal them. I think I have one of my labels over here. No, I do not. I was not prepared for that. But then I put them in a bakery box like this, so I can put up to 24 of most of my recipes. I can do a dozen biscotti in here with room. If you wanted to cram a couple extra in there, you definitely could. I usually add some tissue paper, but something like this would be great for Christmas, especially if you wanted to do a variety pack. And then I usually pair it with a pound of local coffee. I've partnered with a local coffee, I guess 2 local coffee houses now. So for me and the people in my circle, like we all love coffee, we love cookies. You really can't go wrong with the pair. So that's kind of what my intention is for Christmas for my family and friends, but also how I'm packaging it to sell. I typically freeze these before they are decorated, depending on what flavor I am baking. So these I would probably, I'd probably be okay to freeze these now as is. I do a s'mores one though, and I probably wouldn't freeze the s'mores one after it's been decorated, just because of the marshmallows. So for this particular recipe, Crystal, this recipe I usually get, depending on the size of my pan and how thin they are, I have stretched this exact recipe into 26 to 30 cookies. It just depends on how you spread it all out. Most of my recipes bake about 14 to 15 cookies. I give myself the 2 end pieces, and then I have one for my husband for occupying the children and keeping them from wreaking havoc on my baking. Sarah York coming in with the knowledge bomb on freezing the dough. Heck yeah. All right, guys. Well, I don't have anything else for you. If you guys prefer me to stay on while you're pulling out, you know, that first batch, then I will. But it's definitely up to you. Remember when you finish up, I think I've got just a couple minutes left on my timer. We're gonna pull them out of the oven. We're gonna allow them to rest and cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. And once they have cooled for 10 to 15 minutes, you're gonna take your knife. You're going to slice it based on your own cookie size preferences, the full length of the log. And then you will either lay them on their side for their second bake or adjust them catty corner, which I can show you again. Like this. So, and then you've pulled them out, you've sliced them, you've rearranged them, you've pulled them out, they've cooled for 10 to 15 minutes, you've sliced them and arranged them, and then they will go back in the oven for another 10 to 15 minutes, which will allow them to crisp up really nicely. Michelle, so biscotti shelf life is 10 to 14 days out on your countertop. So if I'm baking for them to have them here at home, I have a cookie jar that I put them in. I'll put them in the cookie jar, leave them on my countertop, and they're good for 10 to 14 days. If you individually heat seal them or put them in the refrigerator, that's definitely going to prolong their life. I do heat seal them before placing them in the box. I've done it different ways, but I found that, at least for me going to markets and things like that, trying to sell them, that seems to work best, and it prevents, or it allows people to mix and match. So I usually take 3 flavors to a market or a pop-up, and if I do a dozen for 15 bucks, they can choose 2 of each, or 3 of 2 flavors, and I don't have to worry about any cross-contamination or getting in trouble like with cottage laws and stuff like that. What size bags I use, where are they? I feel like I usually have all of my stuff right here, but alas, I do not. So I think I use a 3 by 9 inch cellophane bag and just heat seal them that way, and I put a 2 by 4 inch label on it that has all of my the ingredients list, or the allergies list rather, my name and contact information. That was, I too, Dana, questioned if I needed to flip them when I'm baking them on one side or the other, which is why I normally just stagger them so that that nice hot air gets to everything, that they are, you know, crispy on both sides. Just gonna slide this over here and get my hot hands and pull these suckers out. Oh, it's not FaceTime. Otherwise I would say, show you mine if you show me yours. here is our pumpkin spice biscotti log after our first bake. It's gonna rest for 10 minutes, then I will slice it and put it back in the oven for bake number 2. I have been trying to incorporate popcorn pricing. I'm going through these questions, sorry. I am trying to incorporate that popcorn pricing. So I typically sell a single for $4, and nobody has really batted an eye at that. I think I had one person who was like, I don't know about that. But I typically sell singles for $4, and I will do half dozens for $15. That's what I did the last time. But because nobody is batting an eye, I feel like I need to up those numbers, as Matthew McConaughey might say. Checking the doneness. So honestly, I just learned my oven, which is not helpful for you at all. So I'm gonna try the toothpick thing like you do with cake. We can learn this one together. Mine is coming out clean. It also has a nice, like, crunchy top when I go to push the toothpick into the top of it. So in 10 minutes time, I guess I will cut into it and check it out and let you know if the toothpick method seemed to be working. I love the popcorn pricing question too. I think that my pricing is probably my sore point where I struggle the most. I think biscotti is a very niche market, and I went into that knowing that, thinking that coffee people just know what biscotti is, but I have learned that I have to kind of train my audience as to what biscotti are, because most people, if they've had one, it was a gross one they got at like Starbucks. It's all broken and like a really crappy crouton. So that's kind of where I've struggled, is with my pricing. Will my market support this? Because they're not very familiar with it. This looks so good. But I guess I will go ahead and close this out. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or on the event page, and I will respond. You know, as I get a moment. This morning, my husband and my kids are still out of the house, so I've got some time to be creeping on the page. Melissa in here coming out with this like professional baker therapy, making me answer my own questions and address my marketing flaws. The way I've tried to educate my target market is I typically do events. For example, I had a pop-up the week before last for International Coffee Day, and I did it alongside a local coffee house. It's very popular, but they did just change hands. They did just change over owners. So I thought it was a good way for them to capitalize and introduce themselves to the community as well. So I had a booth set up. I had a cup of coffee for myself, and I had product for myself to eat or stage, whatever. So when people come up to my booth, and I will ask them, are you a biscotti fan? And some people be like, I don't know what that is. And I typically tell them, well, biscotti is to coffee what Oreos are to milk. It's a double baked cookie intended for dunking. And then I've made bargains with people before. Like, I will offer you a free sample, and if you like it, then you buy a half a dozen. And if you don't like it, then no harm, no foul. And most people will take me up on it. I've also served coffee from my booth, complimentary, just to get them to stop and look at everything. And once I think that they've got a cup of coffee in hand, they start to think about, oh, well, this would be accompanied well by a cookie or by something else. And I've tried to pair almost like wine and cheese. Like, I've tried to pair a certain roast with a certain flavor. So I try to work with the local coffee houses that way, to see what's gonna hold hands best. I did samples last year at a Christmas market, but I found that a lot of people were kind of hesitant to take a sample. So those end pieces, I just saved all my end pieces, and I would cut them into like thirds. So each one was only maybe an inch or so wide, thick, so it's really bite size. That was like a crouton size, but you still got all of the decoration. You still got all of the toppings on each individual bite, and I just put them in those like salad dressing cups when you get to go stuff from Panera or whatever, and had to label them individually that way. And some people took them, but I ended up having a lot of them left over, so I stopped doing that. I think I would rather trade a full-size biscotti for interaction on my page, or bargaining with them. If you like it, you buy a half dozen. If you don't like it, then I'll just eat the cost. And my cost does allow me to do that. But making mini ones might be an option. Do you guys have any more questions? Y'all are really making me think. I haven't even gotten a whole coffee in yet. I think that I like the bargaining idea too. I mean, I've kept doing it, but I think that it helps me to better sell it. I guess it just allows me to interact with them from where they are in their shoes, like at the market. They don't know what this item is, but if somebody was willing to let me test something or try it out that they say is just so amazing, especially if they've got coffee there on hand, I'm much more willing to buy at the end of it all. Even if I don't like it, I'm tempted to buy for somebody else that I think might like it. My best-selling flavor, Rocky. My best-selling flavor is the biscotti. The pumpkin spice does really well in the fall, but year-round, nobody is upset about funfetti. So I have a vanilla funfetti recipe that can be adapted. Like I consider doing it for fall as well, and just making the sprinkles all fall colors. But the vanilla funfetti is the best seller by far. It looks fun and exciting. Kids want it, parents want it. It looks like a party, and it draws a lot of attention. I haven't attempted gluten-free. I do have a couple of friends who have a gluten allergy, and they have given me some suggestions on what kind of flour alternatives to use. I hesitate to do it though, as I cannot guarantee that it is, because this kitchen is a home kitchen, and we are not gluten-free. There's a lot of gluten floating around. So I have not stepped into the realm of gluten-free biscotti. But since there's some comments over here saying that this live went really well, I'm hoping to do virtual classes like this in the future from my business page, and allow or leave a note that states, you know, if you have a gluten intolerance or some sort of allergy, just utilize the ingredients that you typically make at home. And then I'm going to ask them to tag me or tag my business page, to make sure that people know I don't bake it that way, but I'm happy to provide you a recipe and a tutorial so that you can see to it that you get the treat and it meets all of your dietary or whatever requirements. Michelle, I tried so hard. I will show you my attempt. I can't do hot cocoa bombs. Chocolate work is not for me. I have tons of friends who do them and they are amazing, but they're so much work and I just do not have gentle hands like that. So here was my alternative. I'll show you. Feel free to steal this idea because I'm ready to be done with it. So I couldn't do a hot cocoa bomb, but I make homemade marshmallows. So I felt like I needed to incorporate all of these things. So I decided, where can I turn this out at? We'll turn it out on this same thing. It's not for baking, it's just for props. So I decided I would do Cocoa Pops. So I borrowed these awesome silicone molds for like cake pops or cake sickles and stuff. These ones. And I made a Cocoa Pop. And so it's white. This is a white chocolate chai. It is so freaking good. So freaking good. And so I melted the white chocolate. I put the chai latte powder in the middle. And then I made a chai marshmallow and filled the back. Probably should have added chocolate to the back of it, but it's been in my refrigerator. It was a lot of work. I don't know that I would try and sell these because I don't know that it'd be worth it. But this tastes amazing. And this is not a popsicle stick, it's a tiny spoon, which I have about 1 million of now, so that when you pour your hot milk over it and you stir it in, like you get the little paddle that mixes everything together. But this is my attempt, my thought for hot cocoa bombs, but I don't have the talent for it. If you guys want a marshmallow tutorial, I'll tag her in the notes, or if one of you guys wants to at her, but Miss John Dell, who is in our group, makes some amazing marshmallows, and I got all of my marshmallow knowledge from her, and I actually saved her Google Doc that she shared in a marshmallow making madness group, where she shares like all of her flavors and all of the alternatives that she's used and stuff like that. I can show you my chocolate ones that I made. So this is my giant pan of chocolate marshmallow. But if there's somebody to give you a marshmallow making tutorial, it is Miss John Dell, and we should all just tag her in the comments and tell her she needs to do a bake along. Let me see if I can tag her from my computer. I also tagged the group just in case any of you guys are interested in making marshmallows on your own as the holidays and stuff come up, or just for your personal use, whatever. You guys should definitely check that out. That group and then Sugar Cookie Marketing have definitely been the two that have helped me most when kind of developing stuff. So you guys just keep talking to me. I like don't have, this sounds terrible, I say I don't have real friends, but I'm an Army Reserve soldier, so I work in a reserve facility full time. And I'm the only person on my floor of the building, so I don't really talk to people during the day. So this is so nice. I don't usually love chai, but these turned out really well. The chai marshmallows are amazing. They're very sweet. The white chocolate chai Cocoa Pops are very rich. So watch out for that if you want to make them. And then I guess you guys are still here and I'm still here, so I'm gonna go ahead and like cut this biscotti log. It's been about 15 or 10 minutes or so. Just turn it this way. I don't cut mine on a diagonal either. I feel like I end up wasting stuff. All right, so this is mine at the 27-minute mark. It's done all the way through, at least the end pieces, so there's nothing squishy or damp in the center. They smell super good, and you can also see all of those, like the spice granules, which I think looks really nice. Everything's looking really good. We don't have anything that's underbaked or still squishy or damp. In the words of Paul Hollywood, we don't have any soggy bottoms or anything. Call that a win. I am getting kind of oblong now. Straighten that back up. We'll pull one from the middle. Yeah, so everything is baked through nicely, nothing gooey, everything is good to go. These, like I said, these are still pretty fluffy. Unlike traditional biscotti, like I don't bake them super crisp. I found that in talking to potential customers at markets, that's their complaint, is that it's so crunchy or so crispy that they don't feel like they can enjoy it. So I do bake them a little softer. That's just a personal preference. Bake the way your heart tells you to bake. And then I will just stagger mine. Don't forget to save a piece for yourself, one of those nice end pieces. Yeah, that's for you. I'm gonna set mine off to the side. And we can enjoy them together. All right, all arranged, prepped and ready for bake number 2. So I'm going to shut off my oven just because that works for me, and plug these bad boys back in. Woohoo! The struggle is real with the goldfish, man. Like, I love to give them to my kiddos, but inevitably they get thrown at me, or my youngest looked me dead in the face, took his bowl of goldfish, leaned over the side of his high chair and dumped them out. The kid has no mercy. Dana, yes. So on your second bake, I will just leave mine in until my oven goes off. If you prefer a crisper biscotti, definitely just leave it in there a little longer. Depending on how thin you cut them, I would say anywhere from like 10 minutes up to 30 minutes based on, you know, your taste, your preference. But you can always just open it up and poke it a little, pull one out, see if it's where you want it to be. Have you guys sampled yours yet? Because I'm going to sample mine because I didn't do breakfast this morning. They're very soft. It's more like pumpkin bread right now, but who's disappointed about that? So. That's good stuff. I'm a little biased. That's good stuff. Oh. I mean, it was not quite cooked in the first cooking. Have you already sliced it? If you've already sliced it through all of the way, yes, just arrange your biscotti on your pan, put it back in the oven, and you can leave it in a little bit longer. It will still have like a thick, it will look kind of gooey, but it will have baked out. It won't affect the overall texture at the end of your baking. Just leave it in there a little bit longer. Yes, ma'am. All right. I'll stay on for like 2 more minutes to see if you guys have anything else. And then I will drop off and leave you guys to your biscotti decorating. I would love it if y'all would post photos in the live. I would also love it if you would tag Biscotti Babe. I don't know if that's allowed, but it would be super cool if you guys tag Biscotti Babe just so that I could source some feedback from y'all, as well as kind of use this when marketing my classes to be sold from that page. Melissa, I haven't tried a basic chocolate chip. I guess my version of the chocolate chip biscotti is my s'mores. So it's a brown sugar cookie with chocolate chips, like miniature chocolate chips baked in, topped with chocolate and miniature marshmallows. And they do really well, but I think that also I think that it's better for this market that I have coming up when there's more people coming in. I can appeal to wider audiences because I think some adults are not super cool like us and are like, s'mores, those are for little kids. So I gotta Peter Pan it and really connect with their inner child. I'm glad you guys seem to enjoy it. I'm also open to critiques on how things went. I know that the camera angles and my tripod use is a little shaky. I probably could have staged it better, but if you guys have any tips or tricks for me for future classes, I would really appreciate it. You can message me directly, or that's probably the best way to do it, right? We praise in public and scold or reprimand in private. Crystal, that's my thoughts exactly. That's my thoughts exactly. All right, that does it for this live. Definitely share it to friends who weren't able to make it. Hopefully people will jump on and be able to test this out at a later date. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I guess I'll see y'all in the group. Y'all have a good Sunday.